All right, folks, let's do this. My name is David Parsons, and you are listening to News Trap. It is Wednesday, March 19th, 2025. I hope you're doing well, despite the bizarro world we are falling into. And I hope that my thoughts on today's episode are somewhat coherent. Keep in mind that I am filled with bitterness and hatred. That is a hallmark of my personality, if I'm honest. And I bet there's a little bit of that in you as well, because it's hard not to see bitterness and hatred in everything that's happening in America, always, from the very, very beginning. I mean, I'm reading a book right now called The Ruin of All Witches, about witch hunts in the 17th century in Springfield, Massachusetts. And goddamn if it doesn't resonate with, like, MAGA and the left and the sort of, like, especially, like, I don't know, bitter gossip culture that exists online and is now blasting into reality in really ugly ways. Let me just start with this. I discovered a subreddit the other day called the Joe Rogan Experience. Very unfortunate for me to fall into that rabbit hole, even for 5 minutes. And it wasn't my fault. I mean, the algorithm just showed me this shit. I didn't even realize that the posts I was reading were from a subreddit called the Joe Rogan Experience. But what the fuck is going on with those people? They have fallen down the Alex Jones pit of hell. And what I mean by that is every post is like basically just really, really angry and really, really borderline violent. Like, just every post, the basic tone of it is like, so when do we get to start killing liberals, right? And I'm like, wait, wasn't Joe Rogan like just about, like, I don't know, UFOs and psychedelics and maybe some MMA stuff? Not anymore, I guess. And again, these are the listeners, not necessarily the show itself. I don't listen to the show. But goddamn, if that's one of the major cultural forces that helped elect Trump, we're in deep shit here. And this is what I sort of wanted to talk about today. I was listening to, this is going to sound very, very Gen X, but I was listening to Radiohead. The song Paranoid Android has a line in it that says, "When I am king, you will be first against the wall with your opinion, which is of no consequence at all." I always love that line, and it definitely rings for me right now. And I'm thinking a lot about sort of this brand of the left in the last several years, maybe since 2016. The left is, I know that's a very amorphous term, and I think it's really, really important to keep in mind that there is no monolithic left. I think there's more of a monolithic right, honestly. I'll leave that to the political theorists. But it feels like the left is sort of like this amorphous blob, right? It's like some podcasts. It's a bunch of people in academia. It's maybe now like a bunch of students on college campuses. But for the right, the left is basically liberals. And I think that's really important to keep in mind. That, like, when they say the left, they mean like Barack Obama and Rachel Maddow. That's what they're thinking of when they say the left. These, like, wacky Marxists and communists, yeah, they're sort of like, they fear them too. But they're not the institutional left. The way that they're constructing it is liberalism itself. And part of me is sort of mad. And sort of mad at that brand of leftist that really concentrated all of their energy on critiquing liberals and owning the libs. Like, so much so that they basically became indecipherable from MAGA itself in just their absolute focus and concentration on the crimes of the libs. And, like, I am not immune to this. Obviously, this is a podcast that I think we've identified as a left podcast over the years. For sure, we're sort of in that realm. And we're also, I think, adjacent to a lot of those other podcasts and academics that talk about radical left stuff. And we have definitely spent a lot of time critiquing liberals on this show and liberalism itself because it's worth critiquing. And liberalism as sort of like the main front of capitalism in the last many decades has been something that we've been focused on because why not? That's what's been given to us. That's been the face of the evil in a lot of ways. But I would like to think that here on Nostalgia Trap, we have not lost sight of the fact that there is a rising right, and that there is something really important about understanding that liberalism is not forever. And one of the things that we do on this show on News Trap, and I credit Justin Rogers Cooper for this most of all, is try to root our takes and our ideas in a kind of materialist political economy that is global in scale, that tries to figure out what the big picture is, right? Like what's going on, especially in the realm of capitalism. And one thing that gives us, and I don't think we're alone in this, but I think we are maybe a little bit different from other big left podcasts and left commentators, is that we have somewhat of a predictive power when it comes to figuring out what the big shifts are. For instance, right now, there's a lot of talk about how it's the end of the neoliberal order and that Trump's election and all the actions he's taken in the month or so or 2 months that he's been president signal the end and the fall of neoliberalism. Well, I mean, that's something that we've been talking about on this show for years, in part because we saw it coming through reading the tea leaves of material economy around the world, specifically the rise of protectionism and nationalism, particularly fueled by the shift to green capitalism, dwindling resources, and the idea that there is a kind of state capitalism that is moving into power as opposed to the kind of global neoliberal moment we've seen. And that's, again, we're not alone in predicting that, but it feels like everyone is sort of on that boat now. And I wish more people had understood that liberalism was something that wasn't forever. Like, I think that our original slogan on Nostalgia Trap was "History ain't done with us." And what I meant by that is the idea that none of this is permanent and none of this is fixed. There is a strain of left thought that basically said liberalism and neoliberalism and the neoliberal order is the power, is the end of history, is what it's going to be, and therefore we shouldn't concentrate on the right at all. In fact, the right is not a threat at all. They're just part of neoliberalism, blah, 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 blah. These are the people that looked at January 6th, 2021, when Trump incited a violent mob in order to try to overthrow a democratic election and said, that's not important. That's not fascism. That's not authoritarianism. That's just Trump being Trump. That's just a bunch of people who are mad. They're irrelevant. And to me, I'm like, how does that look now? How does that look in March of 2025? Because I think we all know we are now living in a moment in which there is a president who is signaling and acting that outside of the law, that he's saying, I'm not going to do what judges say. And to me, like, I think that what I wanted to get at today was sort of this idea with the left of kind of like, be careful what you wish for when it comes to the people who were thinking that liberalism was forever and you could just sort of LOL at anything that the right was doing because liberalism was never going to go away. How does that look now? Because it does feel like when you have a president that is saying, fuck the law, I'm going to put people in prison for protesting the genocide in Gaza, and there's nothing any judge is going to do to stop me. What do you call that? What is that? That, to me, is the dangers that we saw coming for a long, long time. And I just wanted to point out a couple people that I think are doing it right, that honestly get shit on a lot, and including by the right and the left. One of them is John Ganz. I've been really appreciating his Substack lately. He wrote a book about the right. It's called When the Clock Broke, and his Substack is called Unpopular Front. He's someone who has taken the right seriously and describes, I think often uses the word fascism to sort of describe what the Trump and MAGA project is all about. He's a little bit on the academic jargony side for me, honestly. I guess the title of his Substack, Unpopular Front, maybe signals that, because it's not for everybody, for sure. There's a lot of Heidegger. There's a lot of theory in there. But I appreciate his voice. But I've also been listening to like Ezra Klein and Sam Cedar and people that are, I think within the sort of dweeb, nerd, radical lib left. I wouldn't say radical. I feel like they are the people that are shit on by radicals, honestly. Like, if you go to another just awful black hole subreddit called Left Podcasts, which for some reason I torture myself by looking at, there's a podcast called Doom Scroll that's like a left podcast that recently had Ezra Klein on, and the reaction from everyone on that subreddit is like, fuck this lib, fuck this piece of shit, he's just a lib capitalist. And I'm sort of like, okay, like where does that get anybody, really? I think I'm looking at those sort of ultra radical anti-capitalist people as the people that are the fascism's fools. They are the people I'm thinking of when I hear the radio headline, "When I'm king, you'll be first against the wall with your opinion, which is of no consequence at all." It's sort of like they are doing the work of MAGA by concentrating all of their energy on the libs being the shits. And again, yeah, there's plenty of fingers to point, but at this point, I'm thinking about like, who's going to fight for us? And by us, I mean ordinary people. It makes me think of like, what is the left project all about in the first place? Why do I even describe myself as someone on the left? Because oftentimes I don't describe myself as a liberal, but lately I've been more sympathetic with the liberal point of view, particularly the one that said, yeah, Trump is a threat to democracy. That's real. And liberals got roasted for that by the left. Like, oh yeah, Trump's a threat to democracy. Come on. And it's like, yeah, he is. And like, that matters. That matters to regular people. And by regular people, I mean people that are dependent upon these systems, whether they be university professors or disabled people or older people dependent on Social Security and Medicaid, poor people, right? I thought that's what the left was really about. And to me, I'm sitting here being like, God, I think I feel like a fucking FDR, New Deal progressive when I talk like this, but I believe in those systems. Those systems have provided stability for people. And when you think about what the world looked like for them before that, before the coming of the New Deal, before these programs that Trump is now hell-bent on detonating right in front of us, it's a nightmare. And that nightmare is coming. I mean, it's already here. They are firing everybody, right? I mean, from the EPA to the FDA, all of those alphabet agencies are going away. And like, to me, I look at the people who are like, the leftists who were like, burn it all fucking down because it's all just liberal capitalism. And I'm like, go fuck yourself, dude. Like, are you the person are your parents dependent on Social Security? Is this just like a thought experiment for you? Because it's getting real. And I think that's part of what makes me grossed out by so much of this. Is like the idea that liberalism was permanent and was never going to go away. And that the kind of like the basic tenets of liberal law, the idea that what a judge says is the law, that those things were never going to go away. That faith that leftists had is, in fact, ironically, extremely liberal, right? Like the idea that like, oh, it's all of it is bedrock. It's never going to go away. Well, it is going away. I think that if you are still in denial about what's happening, about what Trump intends to do, I mean, you're completely blind. And these are, again, the people that have worked very hard to minimize the threat of Trump, because for them, Trump is just kind of an LOL reaction to liberals, and that's it. And you get to own the libs. And it's like, well, okay, if that's your take, then you are functionally MAGA. Fuck yourself. You're not on my team. And when I look at the people who are actually going to these town halls and like expressing rage at the GOP and at other representatives of Trump's army, they're like older people. They're regular working class people. They're middle class people. They're not like edgelord leftists. Where are those fucking people? Because, the people that said things like, fuck the police, we protect ourselves. Where's that? Where's that self-protection organization happening? Because most of it seems like just online grandstanding by people that don't really have skin in the game. And that sort of makes me really, really fucking angry. I mean, ironically, a lot of these people are professors, and like we're going to see the total devastation of the university system in the next coming months and years. And like, are the universities just bastions of Marxist thought? Not really. It's like I've been on universities my whole life. There are like a few Marxist professors, but those Marxist professors are part of a culture that caught the attention of the right and is going to be used as a cudgel against everyone else at the university, and that fucking sucks. Particularly because where's the left? Like, where is the left right now in fighting Trump? Because I see liberals at these town hall meetings that are showing up. Now, when it comes to the Democratic Party, the Chuck Schumers of the world, they're fucking lost, dude. This isn't this little rant I'm doing right now isn't to be like, yeah, we should all vote for Democrats and the Democrats are the way. But like, I don't think the left has provided an alternative either. And in many ways, the left has been much more reckless in the kind of tactical maneuvers it's made. I mean, nothing has worked. Nothing. So like, Chuck Schumer and the sort of institutional Democratic Party, I still have fire for them, believe me. But like when I talk to these older people, and I do talk to older people a lot, and this is part of why I'm angry, I think, is because I'm hearing their fear, and I'm hearing their sort of callback to the 60s and the civil rights movement and a different kind of engagement with social change and the law and things like that. But fuck, man, when I talk to them, they're looking at Bernie. They're looking at AOC, right? Those are like the only two voices within the Democratic Party that are speaking for them. But when it comes down to it, when I'm really sort of thinking like, who's gonna save us? It's gonna be a cliche. It's gonna be a Howard Zinn cliche. I'm sorry, but it's gonna be us. It's gonna be people rising up. And this is part of why when I think about Social Security and Medicaid being taken away and those next steps in the economy crashing and life becoming intolerable for millions of Americans, the only thing that's going to make that change is those people reacting in anger, but also with intelligence, right? In choosing the right targets. I don't know where liberalism goes from here, but it is on the ropes. And when I think about like, what do I mean by liberalism? I mean a sort of belief and set of structures that have kept the country in a relatively stable mode for many, many decades. That's what's eroding. Like, we are off the map here, and I don't know if we're going to face like military coups, police actions, mass arrests, violence. All of it seems like it's on the table. And that all of that was sort of either laughed at by the left in the run-up to this election the last several years, or actively rooted for. Like, good, burn it all down. And to me, when I look at that group of people, part of me feels a deep shame that I was ever associated with them, and that I actually expressed a lot of that stuff in my younger years. And like, part of me is sitting here thinking like, well, that was juvenile. That was me being like, basically like a MAGA person. Because the MAGA people are like, burn it all down too, and they're the ones in power, and the way they're going to do it, the shape that burning is going to take, is going to be much, much more painful than I think the left could ever imagine when they're making all their little podcasts and angry internet posts. So I'm sorry if I offended anybody. I'm angry just like everybody else, and I'm willing to point fingers at myself as much as everybody else. But fuck, dude, it's like super fucking bleak out there, and I'm just like, I don't know. I'm at my wit's end with a lot of stupid shit, and it feels like the best thing that can come out of this total cataclysm would be people starting to come together and think about new ways of moving forward beyond point your fingers at the libs and say, fuck them, because careful what you wish for. Liberals going away means fascism, authoritarianism, totalitarianism, whatever kind of ism you want to put on it. What it means for me is that ordinary people's lives fucking suck and we live in fear and hatred and blame for each other. And that's just so fucking depressing. And it doesn't have to be that way. And if there's anything that has animated my identification with the left for all these years, it's been that thought. It doesn't have to be this way. There can be some other way of being and moving forward and caring for each other. So I hope to God that it gets better after it gets worse, but I don't think anyone can deny that it's about to get a lot worse. So thank you for listening to News Trap. If you want to be part of our Patreon and support the show and listen to the rest of our News Trap episodes and bonus stuff, I appreciate that. The link is in the episode description, and I hope you're having a good day. We'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.